Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. This is Talking to Myself, the part of the day where I'm talking to myself about things that I was thinking the night before while laying in bed. Shout out, of course, to all 2,700 subscribers who are subscribed to me at the time of making this video. I truly do appreciate that, and because of you guys, I'm able to make videos about things that I actually want to instead of having to rely on reviews and things like that, and talk about gear, which I don't really care much for. In my opinion, if it's a camera, and it can do the damn job. There's not really much else to it. I don't think cameras limit people. I think people limit themselves in their creativity because they limit themselves only to specs and figuring out what a camera can do for them instead of what they can do in order to help out the camera achieve the best results. With that being said, I also want to thank Fujifilm US for loaning me more and more Fujifilm gear. Recently, they sent out to me the GFX 50S2, which I can give you guys a little bit more insight along with my full insight on the full GFX line that Fujifilm sent to me along with all the other lenses. So shout out to Fujifilm. Thank you very much for that. I do want to talk about one thing today though, and it's something that I've been talking about with not only other photographers, but specifically my photography mentors. And recently I have entered into multiple calls for exhibits, and I've so far knocked out 4 out of my 5. The 5th one is still in jury. They're still going through judges, and so I've been accepted, and there's cash prizes for majority of them. And so total I could win somewhere around maybe like $4,000 if I was to win all of them. And so I'm excited about that. And I was talking to one of my photography mentors about what I'm doing, and I showed her the work because she asked to see the work that I presented to some of these people. And the first thing she asked me was, okay, why do you like these images? And I just thought, you know, she's honestly asking, so I just responded to her why I like the images, gave her a little bit of a backstory of the images, kind of what it meant to me and things like that. And the second question she asked me kind of stunned me. I knew I could answer it, but it wasn't one that I was expecting. And so she asked me, what is your expectation of, you know, people's response to this? And so I've never really thought about that when it comes to my photography. I've always thought about my expectation and my response to an image I've taken, but I've never thought about an expectation of someone's response. I just assumed if I had this feeling, someone might have the exact same response. And the reason why she asked me that, she explained a little bit later, was throughout your entirety of your work as a photographer, whether or not you're in exhibits, whether or not you're working professionally, getting paid, whether or not you're you have brand shoots, portrait shoots, whether or not you're just shooting family and friends, there is one common factor that comes down to what it takes to take an image, and that is it first and foremost needs to be pleasing to the photographer. If something isn't pleasing to us and something doesn't seem like it's right, it's not a composition, not an exposure, not a view that we're going to like, we're probably not going to put it out there for others to see. You can see this all the time, and just like me, I just presented myself to multiple different art exhibits, as well as to Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Gala, Glass, whatever site you use, there's a specific idea of how you want to be presented, and so you're putting yourself out there, and it's always work that you're very pleased with. But what she talked to me about in the ensuing moments later was just about how when she was coming up and she was starting out photography, the biggest thing was that an artist was first and foremost happy with what they're putting out there. But she said before the start of social media, what happened was there were so many people that were getting into the photography landscape around the mid-2000s, 2010s, and things like that, that people were starting to not so much take bits and pieces from others as inspiration, but they were trying to copy one for one what they would see from someone else and then turn to people and market that as something of themselves. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, these people are either not shooting all that much, or they shoot a completely different style that is actually pleasing to them, both aesthetically and story-wise. And it's something that got me thinking, because I myself have been guilty of the same thing. And you most likely have too. It's this idea of we're going out here and we're taking photos, and there's a certain way that I like pictures, that I like to edit, that I like to look at things, and that I have fun with whenever I'm taking photos for me, leisure things. There's certain things that I'm taking pictures of that I like and aesthetically pleasing to me, but at the same time, I'm not putting them out there because in my mind, they won't garner the same response as other images will. And that's the exact same thing that she was talking about and pointing at, is exactly why are you putting certain things in an exhibit? Why are you hanging things up on your Instagram, for example? Why are you putting things on Facebook or Twitter? Why are you sharing these things? Is it because it's something that you love and you back it and you stand behind it? Or is it because it's something that you know will garner a specific response and a specific expected response from people, whether in accolades or adoration? And then she warned me that accolades and adoration don't always equal respect. People can like an image, people can give you praise on an image for your composition, for your lighting, for your creativity, etc. And people can adore the subject. But that doesn't mean they respect you as a photographer. Think about it with your Instagram. How many of you have people that like your images multiple times throughout a month, throughout a year, but they will never follow you back and you feel jaded for it? I don't know what that's like, and if you have a friend like that, he's cringy. But at the same time, it is something that happens. It also is something to where people are trying to gather the respect of their peers and of people that they see above them. So what do? They go and they copy something one for one because they're hoping that if this is aesthetically pleasing for them, then that means they'll look at mine and they'll say, oh, this guy is of the same cut of cloth as me. Whenever you have to realize, and you have to always think back to the fact that the artist matters in every single image. And an artist's detail and an artist's perspective and point of view matters in every single image. It is disingenuous to pretend like every artist has the exact same detail that they keep in mind and the exact same point of view in every single image. I could say that a great test of this is to get 10 to 15 portrait photographers and have them shoot the same subject and see how different things are. People are going to use different focal lengths, different lenses, etc., etc. But the really big way that this is seen is honestly through a contact sheet. And not through a contact sheet like you may think if you don't shoot film, but just seeing where people miss. Seeing where things aren't perfect. You can see your creative process as you're going through these images. My boy Lonnie George, he's someone that I love his images. I love everything he does. And Lonnie, me and him talked a while back about the same thing, about how we basically build digital contact sheets and we look through and we review our good and our bad images to see what went wrong, what could have been better, what's out of place, and how we can grow creatively to create the images that not that everyone else will love to see, but that we love to see. And with that, me and Lonnie were able to discuss how exactly that practice helps not only create or sharpen our minds to be able to see different things, but helps to create us, our voice in the photography landscape and our voice in everything we're doing. You guys have seen maybe over the year possibly less than 1/10 of the photos I've taken. My library is almost full. I need to get another hard drive. The iPad is being choked up and gassed up right now. There's a lot of images that are taken over and over and over again. But they're things that not everyone will see. And the reason being is because there are certain images that are always going to be more important to me than they are to you. Does that mean that just because you won't have the same expected response to them that I will, that they are bad images? No. And the same goes for your images also. A lot of times we're so choked up and we're so wrapped up in this whole idea of I have to please the masses, or a cringy word that a lot of people use is I have to put out quote unquote bangers. And this whole idea of putting out bangers really doesn't make our work stand out. What it does is it makes our work fall into the fold. A lot of times we subject ourselves to following trends. A lot of times we're subjecting ourselves to follow an aesthetic type of trend that doesn't separate us and doesn't show, let's say in street photography, our city and what's great about it. Honestly, when I look at some of y'all's street photography accounts, and no offense to y'all, they're great, they're fantastic, aesthetically pleasing, they're well balanced, the lighting is fantastic, curvature, lines, lead lines, etc. It's amazing, but I can't even tell anything about the story of the place you're at. I can tell that something has shapes on it. I can tell there's amazing texture. I can tell the lighting was great, but it does not tell a story of the city that you're in. These are the things that you're able to gain whenever you're not worried about following the trends and the past and creating images that have an expectancy on the response being only positive from other people. Listen, the best way to tell if you're making amazing images is whenever the response may not garner as much love from the masses of people that you don't know, but the response from people that have followed you and have been a part of you for a long time is always big. If you're a copy or a duplicate of 1 million people, when will you ever be an inspiration with someone when they can always find the 1A, the 1B, and the 1C? It'll never happen. So that's why me personally, I'm a huge proponent of just taking photos of those around you that you love. Take photos of events around you. Take photos that aren't good. Take photos of candids. Print out and frame these cheesy photos, the ones of family members that are, not in focus. When it comes to photography and when it comes to photos, every single one of us can get wrapped up in being accepted. And every single one of us can get wrapped up in wanting to become a photographer that everyone looks up to and everyone knows. It's simple. And the reason being is because every single one of us would love to work a job that we love to go to every day. Every single one of us would love to be a full-time photographer. I would love to be a full-time sports photographer. That would be fantastic. That would be amazing if I could just get hired by a team. But at the same time, I'm not there yet. And I don't want to sacrifice my dreams, sacrifice my creativity, and also sacrifice the ability right now that I have to document the same things in the same way that I would want to document something else just because I'm not there yet. I'll never sacrifice me, and I'll never sacrifice what I want to become and how I want to be known in order to be like someone else, to be able to get likes, to be able to get subscribers, to be able to get followers, in order to retain this fake and fleeting feeling that I've made it. Because that's not you that's made it. That's the trend that's made it. That's the algorithm that's made it. And that's the algorithm that's made you. And as quickly as it makes you, it can all fall apart. I guess the moral of this whole thing and what I'm trying to get to from the conversation that ended with one of my mentors was whenever we finished up and whenever she finished talking to me, she made sure to tell me that no matter what you do, no matter how successful, no matter how many awards, and no matter how many gigs, no matter how many prints you make, no matter how much money comes in the mail, regardless of what happens, never stop taking photos of the things and the people you love. If you share them, you share them. If you don't, you don't. But at the end of the day, you should love your images more than you love the accolades of the people viewing them.